now I'll jump into kind of the reason we're all here today, as far as the Zebra ATR7000 and some of the features that we've built into our own software to leverage the cool features of this product. So just a little bit about it. It's, again, the Zebra ATR7000. It's a phased array passive UHF scanner. And what's really cool about it is it's all in one unit. So you can see here from the image, you can install this in the ceiling, hanging from a girder overhead, and has all of the antennas built into it. It's a phased array antenna that allows you to detect tags in very precise locations underneath the device. So it actually has 97 different beams coming out of this device. It kind of goes around the space that it's above. In those 97 directions, they're actually, like they call them, narrow flashlight style beams. They will light up the tags in a specific spot below the reader so that you can get an XY coordinate that's sometimes better than 2 feet resolution of where that tag is. So you can envision installing a bunch of these, and they're PoE as well, so you can just do one wire to wherever they're installed. Put a bunch of these over some area that you'd like to track products or assets, and it'll detect those tags in their precise locations down below. So that's the RTLS portion of the ATR7000. So we have built into our ClearStream 8.1 product, as well as our cloud portal, the ability to utilize the features of the ATR for RTLS, getting those XY coordinates, and creating maps in your environment to see where assets are, or tagged items are below those ATRs that you have installed in your location. So I'm going to go through the setup of that in just a minute here using ClearStream and then our ClearStream cloud portal, so that you can go ahead and see how you would configure a map, configure the readers, and feed the readers data that's coming from ClearStream to the PTS Cloud on the cloud portal side to see where those tags show up on the map and where exactly they are in your environment. The second cool use case, a new use case for the ATR7000, not just the RTLS where you're getting those XY coordinates, but because it has all of these beams in it and it can detect precise locations of tags, Zebra's built into the reader the ability to track directional movement of items that go below the ATR. So not only can you get those XY coordinates of where it is, but you can also get the events of a tag saying going from one side of the ATR to the other. And the intention of this is that you can install this single unit over, say, top of like a dock door, set it up for directionality mode, and now you can track all tagged items going in and out of that dock door and their direction of movement. And ClearStream offers you the ability to configure all of the settings for that and then feed the tag data that it's recording into whether it be the PTS Cloud or your own internal systems for collecting that tag data. And there's a bunch of cool different features of that I'll just touch on in a second, but you can configure those that portal mode or directionality mode using ClearStream as a different way of setting up this ATR. So again, it's got those two cool modes, XY for the RTLS, as well as the portal mode or directionality mode where you're tracking direction of items underneath the ATR. So the first portion of that, the ClearStream, the RTLS side, we have incorporated this into our ClearStream RTLS engine with the Zebra ATR7000. So this RTLS engine is a cloud-based service that we provide that allows you to, and I'll show you this in a minute, but drag and drop and create the maps of your environment. Upload your floor plan, drag and drop where the readers are located in your environment, configure ClearStream on on your internal side, and then feed that data that's being read by the ATR into the PTS Cloud so you can see them in the maps here, like you see on these screenshots. So again, you configure the maps, you set the positions of everything, and then you can also configure custom events to notify users of movement. So as tags are moving throughout your environment, you can set up rules. So if a tag goes from one location to another, you could shoot out an email or a text message or something like that to notify somebody of some maybe asset that's not supposed to go to a specific location. All of that data, which is collected into the PTS Cloud, is also available to integrate with using our RIA web service API. So you can hook this RTLS engine up to a third-party system easily. you can go ahead and not only capture all this location data inside of the PTS Cloud, you can also get that data out of our system and into some other location. So maybe you wanted to update NetSuite with the most recent location of a inventory item. You can go ahead and do that by grabbing it out of our system and pulling it onto your side. And as always, the last bullet here, it's free to try. So you can actually, with everything that I'm showing you here today, you can sign up to go ahead and have access to the PTS Cloud portal and download the ClearStream software, which collects and calculates the location data that feeds the cloud. A little bit about the directionality mode, again, before I jump into the live demo. So directionality mode, again, is you're tracking the tag data as it moves underneath the ATR. So you're not getting the XY coordinates, but you're getting the movement reported into your system of a tagged asset. So again, you might want to just set this up at a choke point or some kind of portal. So everything that goes through that portal is now going to be captured by direction and what that tag was. There's a couple different ways you can set this up. Zebra offers a 4-zone and a 6-zone plan. The 4-zone plan actually has one north-south portal, although you can change that orientation. North-south portal where you can capture the movement going from zone 1 to zone 2 or zone 2 to zone 1. And it also has that kind of side-to-side zone 3 and 4, so kind of a cross there portal where you can capture the movement going into that direction. So say you're tracking items as they're going down a wall or something as it reaches a portal that then it goes and transits through. You can also do a 6-zone plan, which has 2 lanes going north and south and side by side. So if you wanted to set it up over 2 dock doors, you could put the one ATR up above it and just configure some of the settings for what those zones look like. So ClearStream gives you the ability to adjust all of the settings within these lanes here. So you can change their widths to be wider or narrower. You can change whether it be the 1 lane or the 2 lanes like this, and you can change and configure all of those settings based on your environment. And then as always with ClearStream, you can easily stream that collected data into a backend system, and I'll show you that in just a second. But really, you can then go ahead and get that data for the direction and easily send it to your own system or even to the PTS Cloud, so you can see that direction on the PTS portal side. But ClearStream gives you the ability to easily configure these zones and set them up as you need them in your environment. And that's new for ClearStream 8.1. So with that, I am going to jump out of this PowerPoint, and I'm going to first talk a little bit about the RTLS setup. So let me just log into the server that I have running ClearStream, and I will bring over my ClearStream Cloud portal here. So there's 2 parts to the RTLS system. I guess the first is the Cloud portal. So this is what you would have access to when you sign up, and it gives you access to controlling your readers, seeing the reader statuses and all that sort of stuff in the Cloud portal. It also, this is where you have the ability to configure your maps. So you can configure your maps in the RTLS menu here. You can view the live data. You can also look at the reference data, which I'll talk about in a minute, but you can see the reference data that you have, so employee list, asset list, things like that. You can also see snapshots, because one of the cool things you can do is take a snapshot of your floor plan with the tags and maybe give it to somebody to say, hey, can you go get this asset? It's at this location in the warehouse. The second part of this, I'll just jump this back out, is the ClearStream setup. So ClearStream would be installed on your server. It's a very simple setup. It's a Windows-based application. You install it on your server, and then you can just configure your ATRs and point them to the PTS Cloud ClearStream RTLS engine as the destination of data. So just to talk a little bit about this setup, let me go over to configure here. So my setup is I have an RTLS group, which is just a bunch of ATRs. It could be as many as you'd like. I have 1 in this case, but my ATR is set up on the left-hand side here. The destination of this data is the PTS RTLS Cloud. And if I look at my devices, I can see that I have my RTLS group, which is just, again, it's the group of readers, and then I have a demo room ATR. So this ATR, which is at this IP address, it's called demo room. It's a Zebra ATR7000. This is actively scanning for tags, and I have this configured already to just go ahead and turn on every antenna because we're doing RTLS. We want to capture all of that kind of granular data. It's part of my group, so if I were to have multiple ATRs in here, I would add them all to the group here, and then I just click Generate RTLS Data. So again, the setup is pretty easy here in that I'm just adding the ATRs that I have in my environment by IP address and adding them to a group of devices, and then going ahead and clicking the Generate RTLS Data. Once I do that, I can then just go ahead and map it to the PTS RTLS Cloud. Your username and password are set in the Tools subscription menu up here. And then this tag data will then be sent over to the PTS Cloud. And in that case, you're feeding the map the location data that's being calculated by ClearStream and being recorded and reported by your ATR7000s. So if I go back to the cloud side, I can go ahead and see how I configured it here for our mapping. So if you go to RTLS and then config, this is your mapping configuration area. And it's pretty easy to set up. You basically create a new map and you upload your floor plan. I'll just hit cancel here because I already have one set up. But I uploaded the floor plan here. And then I can drag and drop my ATRs out onto the floor plan and move these around. So if I wanted to capture the location, again, I have this demo room reader here. I would just go ahead and place an ATR over the demo room. Now I can change the size of this based on what maybe the height of the ATR installation is, or what I'm actually seeing in my environment when I go ahead and test the scanning performance of this. But I'm just changing the coverage area inside of my map. And for each ATR, I would just drag a new device out and add them to each maybe room here. If it's a warehouse, maybe I'm just putting them up and down aisles and things like that. But I'm moving them around in my environment. And I'm going to go ahead and I can save this whenever I'm done configuring my map. Now, a little bit about some of the other configurations here. There's all sorts of settings for units of measure, so spacing everything correctly. How often the live view is refreshed. Here I have it set to 30 seconds, but you can have the live view refresh your pins faster or slower. You can configure, here are where you configure tags and events. So this allows you to actually set up workflows or event flows where when certain things happen within your environment, you can notify our user of something happening. So you can go ahead and configure a flow that will then eventually send out an email or a text message or something like that to a user that needs to be notified. So maybe something goes from the demo room over to this conference room here. If I have another ATR set up here, I can set up a rule that says when it goes from the demo room to the conference room, send out an email saying, hey, this particular item went from the demo room to the ATR to the conference room or whatever it may be, or left the facility, warning, please go look for this item. You can also set up reference data for your system. So by default, you could actually run it without reference data, and you'll just get the tag data that the ATR is scanning and have the dots show up in your map. But that's not very useful in the case of being able to maybe look at this data on a tablet where you can click on the dots and look and see what they are. So we give you the ability to upload or attach the system to reference data maybe from a third-party system so that you can maybe, when you assign all of your tags to employees, now you're tracking employees as they're moving throughout a facility, or asset information, so that when you click on the dots in the map, you know exactly what those are, and you can also filter down to specific things that you're looking to capture. So this is the configuration for the map. Again, it's pretty simple. You're just really doing the floor plan and then the ATRs in your environment, and then saving that configuration to the cloud portal. Once you do that, actually, I wanted to mention one thing here. So this circle for my ATR coverage, you can see its data identifier is demo_room. And what you noticed is that, or may have noticed, is that in my ClearStream configuration here, this ATR is called demo_room. So it's important that the name you give the ATR here, which is this IP address, matches whatever circle you have in your cloud environment for the, whatever you have set up for the floor plan here in this cloud environment. So again, this one's demo_room. So when ClearStream is feeding the RTLS engine on the cloud side, all of the data collected by that particular reader is going to show up in this circle here for where the tags are. So again, once you're done with the configuration, you simply go over to the live view. Okay, and right now I have no data stored here. I'm set on mode of view mode last seen as of today. I don't have any tags scanned for today. So I'll just jump back over to our ClearStream server, and I'm just going to hit start to the group. Now this, if you had a whole bunch of ATRs, it would start them all up. It's going to power up those devices. Now what's happening here is it's actually ClearStream is aggregating all of the data that is being fed to it by the ATR7000. So it's getting all of that really granular data from what antennas are reading the tags, and it's doing calculations against that to get the most likely position of all the tags. And when it has a good calculation of all that, it will go ahead and feed the PTS Cloud, that RTLS engine there, the data that it's collected so that it can be reported on the map. So this is currently scanning for tags, and you can see there, it just sent a batch of tags over to the portal side as it's calculating those locations. So it's trying to get the best possible locations based on all of the data it's getting from those tags, and then it's going to report it over to the cloud side. And so here, actually, you can see the data's already popped up. So in that room now, I'm actually scanning all of those tags, and I can see where they're being reported from ClearStream, and I can click on these tags and see it. Now, each one of these are really, it's a circle for how many tags are at that spot. So here's one on this table here that I can click on, and then go ahead over to here and see what it is. Now, if I had reference data, I could actually see the description of this item. Oh, this is a Zebra TC53 that's sitting on the desk or whatever. So I can see all of that data loaded up in the map. And as this system is calculating and scanning more tags, it's going to report them to the portal. So you'll see things move around as they're moved in the environment, or if their position is adjusted, maybe better reads on that particular device. But you can see all of the tags in these locations. Here's one with 3, and if I were to click on that, I can see what these 3 tags are. So again, it's just a pretty simple setup, free cloud side account setup for trial. You can go ahead and feed your maps that tag data and see how the performance of the ATR in that environment. So that's the new ATR7000 feature that we've added to ClearStream 8. Again, it's allowing you to run the ClearStream in an RTLS mode where you're getting all of that kind of location data reported to the PTS Cloud, and we've created this cloud portal here where you can go ahead and upload and create your maps that you're feeding that tag data coming from the ClearStream software that you have configured. So again, if I just bring that up one more time, you can see this is constantly calculating the locations of all those tags in your environment and sending that tag data to the portal so that can be displayed on the map, and also at that location. It's also doing any of the event flows that you might have configured to notify people of the data as it's moving around or throughout your facility. So that's the RTLS side, what I wanted to show today. I didn't go into great detail on the setup for some of those things like the event flows and all that sort of stuff, but just know it's available there. And you can go ahead and configure those as well with the free trial if you decide to set everything up. So the next feature I wanted to show today, I want to start from scratch here. So I'm going to start a new project, is running the ATR7000 in directionality mode. So again, this is where we're tracking the direction of all of the tags as they move below the ATR7000. So for this demo here, I'm not going to go to the PTS Cloud. I'm going to go to just a database table. So this gives you an illustration of how you can use ClearStream with an ATR7000 and feed some maybe local system that you have in your environment. It could be SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, PostgreSQL, all those sorts of things. Actually, let me go through the list here. You can go to Excel, text files, the PTS RTLS Cloud, or a RIA endpoint if you have a PTS Cloud, a custom cloud developed by us. But you can go to any one of these different types of destinations to send that data. For this, I'm going to go ahead and select the ClearStream RFID 8 sample. So this is a database that comes with ClearStream when you install it. And I'll select the RFID tag list table within that database. So if you had SQL Server, similar setup, or Oracle, you're selecting the database, you're selecting the table you'd like to send the tag data to, and then any devices that you have configured on the left-hand side is feeding that tag data over to the destination. So on the device side, I need to add an ATR7000. So I'm going to go ahead and click Devices here. I'm going to click Add. And for the portal mode, I need to select down at the bottom here, Zebra IoT Connector. So I'll go ahead and select that from my list. And now it adds a new device that we can configure. So let's call this Portal A. Doesn't matter what the name is. Let's give it a number, Portal 100. And now we need to specify the IP address or host name of this device. Now you can do a find, and this will find all of your Zebra devices on the network that you can connect to. But I know the IP address for this. So I'm going to go ahead 192.168.4.113. I'll go ahead and hit enter. You need to enter the username and password of the device to connect to it. If you're successful there, you'll notice the device ID is populated in the device ID column. So I've successfully now connected that Zebra ATR7000 to, and this is a different one from the RTLS that we have here in the offices. So I've connected this device to ClearStream, and I've given it a name Portal 100. Now for the setup of this, I can actually skip through most of these options here. But when you select the Zebra IoT Connector type, it gives you a bunch of settings here for some of these things that we support on the IoT Connector interface to the Zebra devices. Where you send your tag data, IoT Connector allows you to batch tag. So maybe if this is like, we'll be going through this in the next webinar, but if it's an FXR90 in a remote location, you can have a batch tags over after some length of time. So there's all sorts of settings for that. Down below, there's the operating mode, which is what we're going to be talking about today, is the operating mode for the device that you're currently configuring. Below that, you'll notice the GPS settings for the FXR90, which again, if you'd like to check out that webinar, that one's on, I believe, September 18th, I said. You can go ahead and we'll be talking about that feature as well. But for this, today, I'm going to select directionality from the operating mode. Now, it'll pop up a little warning here saying this kind of overrides some of the other settings that you can configure in ClearStream, things like the antennas that are on and those sorts of things. So you just hit OK to this. It just means if you had configured anything here, it's going to get overridden by these options here because you're changing the mode of this device so that the device starts to change how it operates to get that direction data. So there's a bunch of settings here then that you can configure for directionality mode. And this is what makes it easy for ClearStream to configure these lanes that you'd like to track data in. The reader height, how high the reader's installed. I have one that's actually kind of low. I think it's even lower than 10 feet right now. But you change the height for what this is installed at. 10 feet is the minimum. That's why I'm saying that. So if you had this at a 15-foot high over top of a portal, you go ahead and enter 15 feet. You then enter the average tag height of going through this portal. So you kind of take the middle ground of where you think most of the tags are going to be transiting past or through this portal. 3 or 4 feet might be like a human holding something on the side if you're trying to track something that a user's carrying. The orientation, this allows you to change the orientation of those lanes. So rather than going by default, which is 0 degrees, which is north-south, you can turn this. Maybe if it was 90 degrees, it's going east-west. So you're changing, without having to turn the physical unit, you can change the orientation of the lanes by changing the degrees here in your setup. So the next things you can configure here, the zone plan. So this goes back to the diagram I showed in the webinar. You can do 4 or 6. For the demo today, I'm just going to do 4. That allows you to really give that north-south lane, which is where I'm going to be capturing. You'll see the transition point in this in a second. The inner zone width, this is the width of the lane itself in feet. So I'm going to just make a narrow lane because I don't want to capture too much here. This is the width of each lane. If it's 2 lanes, it's the width of each one of them. So you'd have a 4-foot lane on the left and the right for those 2 north-south lanes. You can change this based on what you want. So if it's a loading dock door, you just change it to with the dock door, things like that. Some of this other stuff gets a little bit granular, but it's really meant to help you in your environment if you need to try to improve performance or limit that transition data that's coming in. Zone extension, just briefly, this is where the middle point is on the between the two lanes, the middle point of the lane. If you do plus or minus feed, it basically extends one zone into the other based on this being positive or negative. The hysteresis distance here is how far you have to go into the lane before it'll report again when you go back into the previous lane. So it can limit the amount of tag data you get based on your environment and your testing. Report updates. This will allow you to report tags if they're stationary. So -1 means tags that are stationary do not report. If you want to report them, say once every 30 seconds, just because you want basically presence detection underneath your ATR, then you could change this report updates. Excuse me. Beam config and polarization. These you can generally leave as defaults, but if you needed to improve or try to improve the performance in your environment, you can switch these as well. Especially the polarization, you can do left hand, right hand, theta, phi, or all of the beams on the antenna, all 97 beams, but each one of the polarization options that's available on this device. You can also name the zones, zone 1, 2, 3, and 4, and so on. And then this is what gets reported in the event to the destination database. What zone did it go from and then to? So you can get that directional data reported to your database. So really, once you have that configured, that's all you have to configure for directionality mode. ClearStream will apply these settings when you start the reader up. And now the ATR will take over and start calculating the direction of movement of items below the antenna. And we'll get that data from ClearStream. ClearStream will forward it on to the destination that you've selected. So if I jump back over to my settings, I've got my ATR7000 hooked up to this RFID tag list. Finally, the one last thing I want to do is set up my mappings down below. So these are the mappings, the fields of data collected by the reader and the fields of data in this database table. So I was only going to make a couple changes here. I did want to report zone. I'm going to just send that over to this TID field, and I want to get rid of these bottom fields, the GPS fields, because those aren't captured by this device. And then I have everything else one-to-one. I have EPC to EPC, users not recorded, antenna, and then the tag event and direction. Actually, those will come over as the same values. But I have all of these fields mapped up to that destination. So now I simply have to go over to start. I will go ahead and, well, let me check the data here. So here's my destination. This is that sample database that comes with ClearStream. It's actually a Microsoft Access database that's included with the install. But this just the data view of it. There's nothing in it right now. So if I go ahead and start this reader, it's going to take my configuration, apply it to the device, and it's going to immediately start capturing tags. Now, upon first scanning of tags, they are recorded. I'm going to stop this for a second and jump over to the data viewer and hit refresh. So you can see I got a bunch of tags there. They're all the new tags that were scanned. So I have tag visible is the event here. So this is the all tags that are nearby, and this is kind of in our offices here, so it's getting a lot of stuff that we have, test tags and all that sort of stuff. But it's tagged a whole bunch of tags, and now we had some movement in there, and you'll see down below, we got some transitions that were calculated by the ATR7000 and recorded here as the tag event, and I mapped these both to the same thing. Whoops, just sorted on that. So we got some transitions here of all of the tags. So I can see where this particular tag went from and then to based on the status of this field here. Transition zone 1 to zone 4, zone 2 to zone 3. So these are just a couple of items, just a roll of tags really that were moved underneath the portal. Everything else are just new tags that were happened to be scanned when this thing was first turned on. And then the other tags were calculated with their transition of direction from the based on what you call it. So this could be, inside, outside, or whatever you'd like on the zone side. So that's as easy as it is for setting up the directionality mode. You can do this for any number of ATRs that you'd like. You just turn on directionality mode, set up the directionality mode as per your environment, and then go ahead and start moving tags or after you start it, start moving tags back and forth underneath the ATR, and you get that directional data reported to your destination. So that's the other cool feature of the ATR7000. Directionality mode, that one is new for ClearStream 8.1 as well. So if you download the update to ClearStream, you'll go ahead and you can test all of those features as in the free trial as well. And the setup's pretty simple there. Just turn on directionality mode and configure a couple things. With that, let me jump back over to the PowerPoint. I think that's everything I wanted to show you guys today as far as the live demo. So let me bring this back up. And we'll open up to questions at this point. Apologize, they changed this GoToWebinar interface. It feels like on a daily basis. Let me get this question panel open. Okay, first question here, actually a couple that just popped up is this webinar recorded so I can review it? Yeah, all these webinars are recorded and then we post them to our YouTube channel. So if you'd like to refer back to it, maybe if you're setting any of the stuff up, you'll be able to take a look at the setup, maybe follow along in your own setup if you just go ahead and download it and trial ClearStream. Follow-up question to that is, how do I sign up for the free trial? So, sure. So if you go to our website at ClearStreamRFID.com, you can download ClearStream. You just fill out a simple form there. And when you fill out the form, you'll get a email from us in requesting the setup for your trial. There's also a link if you do not receive that or you need to sign up from a different email address. There's a link within the ClearStream application in the tools subscription dialog that'll take you to a form to request your trial. You can go. You just basically have to go to ClearStreamRFID.com, click on the free trial, fill out the link, and you can set it up there. If you install it and need a different email address, you can go ahead and enter that form from the application. Okay, here I have a question here. Can ClearStream pull user data from RFID tag? Yep. You can go ahead and you saw the field mapping for user RFID and also the TID user bank. ClearStream can be configured to scan both of those user banks on the tags, and then you just map those fields to the destination. There's one checkbox you do have to turn on in the reader configuration area. There's a read all memory banks during scan checkbox. Just turn that on and then map the fields, and you'll get the user bank as well as the TID if you wanted that. You can unmap the TID if you didn't need it. There's a question here. How do you associate different maps and formats? So, good question. So the current upload that we support are image files for these maps. So you can go ahead and create as many as you'd like, and then they're accessible via the dropdown on both the config and the live module within the cloud portal. So you can go ahead and configure as many as you'd like, and then the only thing you need to do is in the ClearStream side, if you just name the readers to match the readers in any one of your maps, you'll get that data on that individual map. So if you switch to floor 1 to floor 2, as long as those devices have different names, they'll be fed to the cloud portal and they'll be displayed in the correct map. And you can switch them through the maps that you're looking for using the drop-down at the top of the live view. I have a good question here. I noticed the columns in the reader for GS1 company prefix, GS1 serial number, etc. Is this a new feature in ClearStream that uses the tag data standard to process GS1 EPC tags? Yes, so actually it's a good question. It may have been added in ClearStream 8. It wasn't in the most recent release, but it is available there, where you can parse out the GS1 fields, and it'll do it automatically for you, and then you just map them to the appropriate fields on your destination side. So yeah, it is a relatively new feature. I think it was in ClearStream 8.0, not 8.1, but it allows you to map the GS1 fields, company prefix, serial number, GTIN, whatever. It allows you to map those to the destination field on the database side, and it does it automatically for you. Okay, I have a question here. What type of tags have you tested the Let me click on this whole thing. With ClearStream and the ATR, and what level of location accuracy is typical? So this is a great question as well. I could probably follow up. We have a number of different installs going on with different tag types. So I'd probably follow up on the performance that we're seeing from the different tags that we've tested with ClearStream. As far as accuracy, with pretty large tags, sensitive tags, we're seeing in our software probably around like a 5 to anywhere up to 10 feet of accuracy. So I know the material I had here was saying could be greater than 2 feet. One of the differences with the way we did this RTLS system in our ClearStream software is to make it possible so that you can configure the environment really without having an engineer involved. It's really take an ATR, hang it in the ceiling, move that circle around, and then adjust the circle based on what you're seeing in your environment. So it's not as accurate, I'd say, as some systems, but it's very easy to set up and test the performance of, and it's accurate for most of the applications that we've so far seen, with accurate enough with most of the applications we've seen with RTLS, that 5 to max, say 10 feet. We're seeing that 10 feet in very reflective environments where there's a lot of large pieces of metal, things like that, where that multipath issue, the reflection of the beams is affecting the accuracy of the scanning. But we're working on better accuracy as we move forward, trying to kind of drill that down even better. But we're seeing somewhere between 5 and 10 feet of accuracy. If it's a very good environment, it's even closer to that. I would say it's probably closer down to the 2 feet. But some of the environments we've installed it at so far have a lot of reflections and things like that where the accuracy can be reduced a bit. Okay, here's a question. How real-time is the tag movement? Do you usually see the tag move in real time in the software, or is this something like a 5 to 10 second delay? So this is it's actually a delay. It's a configurable delay, but it does have a minimum. You can go down to, I believe, reporting tag information down to every second to the PTS Cloud. You lose a little bit of accuracy, I would say, in that, because it's kind of pumping the calculated data over sooner rather than aggregating more data, but it will give you more active, responsive look on the map of items moving throughout a facility. Also, we don't have the mapping side is configured to a delay as well. I think you can put the mapping refresh rate down to 0, which continually just kind of loops and polls for tag updates. But it is on a delay that's based on how long the ClearStream side waits before it reports tag information to the cloud, and then the cloud side, that portal side, will it's just on the kind of a timer how often it refreshes it from the screen. This interface here, I check the questions that I have, and then the check disappears. So I apologize. It's making me have to scroll through things. The question here, although I don't know if I'm completely clear on it. ODBC link to update system, which details what the tags represent. So I think this might go back to the, if I'm understanding your question correctly, you want to know how you're tying a tag to another item. So when I showed RTLS, you can do that by adding reference data to the system, the portal. You upload reference data that has as the key value the EPC for what that item represents. But you have to upload that list into the cloud portal. If you're using, like my second sample here, your own system, you would typically have that assigned in some database table someplace, the association between EPC and whatever the item is that you're tracking. And then typically you build like a view or something where you're joining that reference data to whatever the EPC tag is that's moving, or that's being tracked maybe through movement or whatever, so that you know what those tags are. But you need to make that association either, if it's your own system, it would be an EPC to asset reference table, or if you're using our RTLS system, you can upload that reference data into the system, either through our API or through just a drag drop of a text file that makes the marriage between the EPC values that you have in your environment to whatever the item is that you're tracking. Another question here, is there a breadcrumb feature to trace the path of an item in retrospect? Yeah, you can run that in, if I, hang on. There's another mode here called real time. So here, this would be better filtered, but this actually shows the path of items as they're moving. And you can configure how many trail events are here, but this will show you the movement of an item. And this is pretty cool, as you can see it moving throughout the environment. It gets very noisy unless you add a filter to it. If you need to set the filter, you need to have reference data. But you can see an item as it moves throughout the facility, and it gives you that spline sort of line between the different items as it moves. Another question here, is there a commercial cost implication regarding polling, et cetera, if the refresh rate is reduced to get more real time? We currently don't have any kind of limit on that. Again, it will affect slightly the performance of your tag data, at least initially, because it starts pushing tag data faster to the cloud. So one of the things that ClearStream does is it's accumulating the tag reads to try to average out the best known location of that tag. And if it pushes it immediately, it may not be the most accurate scan. So let's just say, you start the reader, it's beam 1, let's just say north turns on, it's reflected over to the south side, but you want to report tags immediately. That tag now that's over on the south side is suddenly appearing north because you decided to report the tag upon startup, and it only had the one beam turn on, which was north, and it didn't even get to the south beam before it now calculated that. So you lose a little bit of precision there. We don't currently have a limit on the polling. There are some defaults out of the box that you can adjust. You can reduce it if you'd like, but there currently isn't a limit on that. I can't say that would ever not change, but as of right now, there's none. Any other questions? Let me bring up the contact information here, coming up on this hour. Yeah, you can send over questions if you would like. I'd be glad to read them while I just bring up the contact information here. But if there are none, or send them over if you'd like. But here's our contact information. So if you do decide to trial anything or want to sign up for any free trials or have any questions, here's the contact information. Please reach out to us. We'd be glad to get questions from you guys, or even feedback on both the software as you're using it, the webinar, content-wise, was this detailed enough, things like that for you guys. We'd love to get all that great information from you. I don't see any other questions here. All right, well, with that, we're coming up here on the hour. I appreciate everyone, again, taking time out of your day to take a look at the latest software from PTS with ClearStream RFID and all of the great features I think that we've added for the Zebra ATR7000. So we're looking forward to seeing what you guys set up out there and get your feedback on all this new stuff. With that, again, thank you all, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day. All right, bye-bye, everyone.